Hey, welcome to the show. What we got
Hey,
going on
everybody.
here is the Tigers actually won a game here on Friday. We'll talk about that, and then we'll look ahead to the MLB draft. Coming right up.
Turn that off. It's time for No Pad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome to another edition of No Pad Sports Talk. I am one of your hosts, JD.
And I'm Steve. It's Friday. And
It is
as
Friday.
my brother mentioned earlier, Tigers won a game.
Yeah, let's not get too excited. It was against the White Sox, worst team in the Major League Baseball.
Worst team in the, but a win is a win. I'll take a win.
A win is a win. I'll take a win, yes. Okay. And then, of course, we'll give that a quick talk, talking about the Tigers, and then we'll transition to the draft, because the draft is coming up in just a few weeks here in July.
Sure is. And that's the interesting thing about the MLB. If you guys didn't know that, MLB draft is mid-season.
Yes, it is.
It's kind of weird that, you've got, and I don't really know when they would do the draft, because you still have got kids in high school, right? So when you think about the process and when it's scheduled for the draft, right? High school kids they're not done until June.
Well, I mean, same thing with college, right? When you're coming out of college, too. I mean, I know college gets started earlier, but, I mean, they're still, playing earlier on. So, and this way, you get it, early on in the summer. Well, kind of early on in the summer. And they can still, if everything works out, they can still play, a little bit in after being drafted, 20, 30 games.
Isn't today the summer solstice?
Is it?
Is it today or tomorrow?
I don't know.
But either way, summer technically hasn't officially started until now.
Yeah. But look, all right. So we teased at the opening, right? As far as the Tigers, they won a game. Look, it's against the White Sox. Really, the only exciting thing that happened is Carson Kelly hit a 2-run home run, and that was 2 RBIs. At least on the offensive side of the ball, right? I gotta be specific. On the offensive side of the ball, it's the only good thing that happened. We did see, Matt Vierling get a hit, Colt Keith got a hit, Riley Green got a hit, right? Justin Henry Malloy got a hit. And the reason why I want to bring up Malloy and Keith is because, of course, they're rookies on the team. We always kind of interested to track their progress, see how they're doing. Riley Green is probably the best player on the team, position player on the team, not counting pitchers. And Matt Vierling, he's just, one of my favorite players on the Tigers. I just think he's very useful. I can't help it. Perez went 0 for Urshela, Canna, Kreidler, all 0 for. Not a big surprise there. Zach Flaherty had a great outing, struck out 8 over 5.2 innings. He did walk 2, not bad. Only gave up 1 earned run. That was on a solo shot. Otherwise, besides that one solo shot, he wasn't really hit all that hard. He kind of dominated, to be honest. Bo Brisky came in for 2 innings, only gave up 1 hit, and then Jason Foley closed it out for the save. So overall, the Tigers pitching staff looked great. I mean, it was against the White Sox. I just want to throw that caveat out there. The only hits they had was 2 from Tommy Pham, 2 from Gavin Sheets, and then 1 by Paul DeJong. The Paul DeJong's a little bit interesting because he allowed the game to end. Because going into the top of the 9th inning, Paul DeJong was on first. And I'm saying this because this is kind of like, this sums up the White Sox season. And Paul DeJong was on first base. It was a fly ball to center field, and it was Vierling playing center field at the time. He caught it, and Vierling was kind of shocked because there was only 1 out, right? But Paul DeJong didn't know how many outs there were, and he ran on contact, was almost a third base hit before Vierling caught the ball, and he was able to throw it in, get a relay in, and get him out at first base, double him up to end the game. So really, the Chicago White Sox, again, shot themselves in the foot like they have so many other times this year.
Kind of like the Tigers have done.
just like the Tigers have done. I mean, they're both really bad teams, but really, the White Sox are just kind of a joke of an organization at this point. Although they have had some good pitching.
Last year, the team that you were saying that about was the Oakland A's.
Yeah, and they still kind of are. They're still a joke just because of the ownership. The ownership's a joke, but at any rate, the White Sox, they're just a miserable team. They're gonna. If they got anybody left, anybody wants. Mainly Louis Robert. He's probably going to be gone, and they have a couple pitching prospects that'll probably be gone too. I wouldn't be surprised. So, anyways, kind of getting off track there. But one thing I do want to mention, though, as far as the Tigers, going back to June 5th, all right, they are 4-10. That's now
2 weeks, 11 days.
4-10. And that counts today's win, by the way. All right. So let's look at the Tigers' run totals for the last 5 games. Okay. Last 5 games. We have 1 run, 1 run, 1 run, 0 runs, and 2 runs.
Yep.
That's 5 games. Now, if you go beyond that, right, the 6th game was when they scored 13 against the Astros, which is, whatever. I mean, we'll take it, but that's an anomaly. And the game before that, again, there was 0.
Right.
So, in the last 7 games, they have scored 2 or less runs in every game and have been shut out twice. This is not a very good offensive team. It's not a big surprise. It's not a hot take. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But you know what I was noticing is kind of interesting today, though, brother?
Yes.
When I was looking through this, I was really shocked to kind of find this. All right. If you look back at all of their series they played, like say a 3-game series.
Yep.
2 of the games, they'll score less than 5 runs, and then 1 game they'll score 5 or more runs. Now, of course, it's not like that every single series, but pretty close, right? Like, let's take the Astros, right? Tigers scored 0 runs, 1 run, and 13 runs.
Yeah.
Right? Nationals, they scored 4 runs and 7 runs, and this was one of those times they didn't quite work because the other one was also a 5-run game. So, not quite there in the Nationals.
Yep.
But you go back to the Brewers, they scored 0 runs, 4 runs, and 10 runs. Rangers, they scored 2 runs, 3 runs, and 1 run. Again, doesn't quite work there. But Red Sox, 3 runs, 3 runs, 8 runs. Right? Blue Jays, 1 run, 6 runs, and 2 runs. In a 3-game series, 3 games, we're talking about, right? 3 games.
Right.
Royals, they scored 3, 3, and 3, so didn't quite work there. Diamondbacks, Marlins 6, 0, and 0. Astros again 2, 3, and 8. Guardians 2. I don't know. I just find it. It was one of those things where I was looking at it. It was just interesting because Guardians 1, 4, and 11. Yankees 1, 2, and 3. Cards again 1, 11, and 4. It just seems like out of every 3 games they play, there's going to be 1 game which will score more than 5 runs, and that's it. That's all they can do is 1 game out of every 3.
They can't put them together.
No, they're just not that good of a team.
No.
And I hate to say it, right? But a lot of their wins that they have gotten, especially early on in the year, not so much right now, but especially earlier on in the year, they were winning some close games, low scoring games because the pitching was on, pitching was there.
Yep.
But the guys that were doing the hitting was some of the players they brought up from AAA. They'd bring them up, they'd hit, for a couple games, and then they got figured out, and then they wouldn't hit anymore, and then they got dropped back down to AAA.
Yeah.
But they were the guys that kind of sparked the offense and allowed the Tigers to actually win some games. It hasn't really been any of the the guys on the 26-man roster repeatedly, like over and over again. Yeah.
So when kind of that same up and down is what you see from Creedler, shortstop they brought up when Javi Baez went on IL. He's kind of been, that's the kind of hitter it looked like he's been. He's either over or, like today, right?
Yeah.
But I've noticed, he'll get a hit. He'll get on base, right? If you want to call that, he's a base runner, right? So maybe not so much with his number, like when you're looking at his batting average, but or number of hits. But times he's on base, sometimes he's doing it right, and other times he just doesn't seem like he just,
I don't know. Again, this is something that I brought up over and over again as far as the Tigers and the shortstop position. Yep. They just don't have really anybody in the pipeline that's ready to go now that's going to make much of a difference at the position. When I made that comment before, we actually had a comment in a video I made it on, and they were talking about how Kreidler could be that guy, and I completely disagreed. It was like so far this year. And again, it's not a lot of games. I don't know what it's about right now. I totally get that, but he's got 2 hits. That's it, and they both came in one game. He's been 0 for in every other game. His batting average has fallen to a 143. His ops is a 393. Right? I mean, there isn't. I mean, I don't know. Like, and then you look at his fielding. I know that his fielding is like supposed to be like a strength of his. He may not make some amazing plays, but he's supposed to be pretty sure-handed. But he had 1 error in his first game, which could be nerves, whatever. I understand that, not a big deal. But he's been pretty solid since. So I don't know, man. Like I am not thinking that I gotta sneeze here. Well, excuse me. Sorry about that. Bless you. But I'm. He's not the answer. That's where I'm going with it. He's just not the answer. Right.
So I know at the beginning of the show we talked. Okay, here's what the Tigers did to win the game. We're going to talk about the draft. Kind of want to throw in a bit of a transition from the game to the draft.
All right.
And I want to talk about the trade deadline.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So, been seeing a lot of stuff, should the Tigers be selling?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm going to throw out some names. All right. Okay. Casey Mize.
That's dependent.
Okay.
He's not untouchable. You can't give up all your pitching. You got to keep some pitching in house.
Yep.
And I would say it's dependent on who else we give up and who we can get for him. So,
because I know he just came back from injury, and this is his first year where he's back pitching, right? So
it's been over a year.
Yep. So I'm not saying that that's the guy. Like, things that are happening is not necessarily because of him, but Jack Flaherty.
100%. If you don't trade Flaherty, the management team should be fired, all of them.
Okay. All right. I can't really think of anybody else. I can't imagine they're going to give up Scooble.
Here's where Scooble would be an interesting option. Okay. I'm at a point where there's just about everybody is I'd be willing to give this one everybody right now.
Okay.
I think you gotta blow this thing up. I am not the only person I wouldn't give up and wouldn't touch right now is, now we're talking about the guys on the roster. We're not talking about prospects. Right. I want to make that clear.
We're talking about the people on our current roster.
On the current 26-man roster, right?
That's right.
I'd keep Colt Keith. Kerry Carpenter's injured. I'd keep him. I'd keep Riley Green.
Matt Beerling.
Matt Vierling. Actually, again, if they gave me enough of Matt Vierling, he'd be gone too. I mean,
Okay.
just
I
to straight
know
up,
how much
right?
you like him. That's why I'm like, if you're going to
Well,
mention some names, I know Matt Vierling's just the guy. He's just such a great utility player.
yes, Matt Vierling has a definite spot on this roster. He is
Yes.
valuable for what he does. He can play basically any position. He's not an automatic out.
Yep.
He's decent on the base paths. Like he offers a lot, right? But
And he looks like our brother-in-law.
and he does look like our brother-in-law. But look, I would not I wouldn't like he's not untouchable, I guess is what I'm saying, right? I'm talking about the
Okay.
players that are currently untouchable is Keith Vierling, or I got me saying Vierling, Keith
Yep.
Green and Carpenter. Those are the
Carpenter.
three untouchable guys.
Okay.
Position
And
players.
Carpenter, is that only because he's hurt, or just because of
No.
how he plays when he's on the team when he's not hurt? What he contributes.
Carpenter has the ability to be a solid hitter,
Okay.
right? And that's what we need right now. He offers some power. And I noticed I didn't mention Torkelson. I think he should be, possibly gone too. I'm not saying that he has to be. I'm not saying to do it. I'm just saying that, I wouldn't say no.
Right. Well, you said Kerry Carpenter and just kind of what he has the potential. You've been saying that about Torkelson for 2 years.
But Carpenter's actually produced and Torkelson hasn't. I mean, I know he did for half a year. That's Torkelson's claim to fame right now is 1/2 of 1 year.
Yeah.
And that's it. I just can't go off of that anymore, right? Like
No,
I can no longer. And I've said over and over and over again that Torkelson has talent, and I think Torkelson still has a chance to be successful. He's still, kind of younger. I could see him, like maybe blossoming 26, 27, 28 years old, whatever that's going to be. I don't know. Like potentially. But if I am a GM and someone offers me, something that I really want, players that I really like for Torkelson, I'm going to go ahead and take it. That's all I'm trying to say, right? Like he's not untouchable is all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying we give him up for a bag of peanuts. I'm just saying that he's not untouchable.
Okay. So
and the reason why I'd look at
you have three players. You got 3 players that are of the 26-man roster. Everything else,
yes,
sell.
I mean, everybody else is again. They're not untouchable. Everybody else has the ability to be taken from my team again, depending on what I'm going to get in return. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Yes, it's and Scooble will command so much in return right now. Like hypothetically, if you were to sit there and say that, I mean, you have to look at this thing. You have to look at your minor league players, and you have to, the big picture. If you think you can compete in 2 years, you keep Scooble. If you don't think you're capable of competing in 2 years, you get rid of Scooble. Scooble right now, he'll be 28 later on in November. He'll be 28 years old.
Okay.
It's not like he's a 22, 23-year-old guy. I mean, now that 27 is super old, but you get what I'm trying to say, right?
But he also struggled with some injuries last year, and he came back, and and he's obviously he's been our ace this year.
And he is a great pitcher. There's no doubt about it, right? But at 27, he'll be 28 at the end of the year. If you don't think you can compete in 2 years, I don't want to sign this guy to a huge contract at the age of 30. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not when you're not able to compete right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to trade Tarek Skubal away right now, before trade deadline, and you get a haul for him, because that's what he would command. He would command a lot of players in return. He's having a Cy Young worthy season right now. Yeah. Even though he lost his last couple outings, he's still 8-3 with a 2.5 ERA. His WHIP is still underneath 1. He has 105 strikeouts and 90 innings pitched. Like the guy is still very, very valuable. Is all I'm trying to say, right? Yep. He's going to command a haul. Flaherty is going to command a haul, right? So if you trade Flaherty to one team, Scooble to another, and you look at what you can get for any of your other players, it doesn't matter, right? Like Tigers, they have a chance to sell and get players back in return. It's not going to be a lot, right?
Sure.
But like Mark Canha, he'll be gone. He should be gone. He's right now. Canna's having a pretty decent season. He's got a 106 ops plus. Like on a team that's competing, he can be valuable.
Sure.
He's got 349 on base percentage. Gio Urshela, potentially. I'm not saying none of those players are going to command a lot in return, like a
Right.
Flaherty or Scooble, though, right?
Gotcha.
That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, if the offer is right and you don't think you can compete in 2 years, you trade Scooble now before you have to sign him to a huge contract at the age of 30. And then, kind of pigeonhole yourself in that type of situation where, I mean, what do you have in the pipeline coming up, right? Is Parker
Right.
Meadows, is he going to be what you need? We already know what Baez is. He's
Yeah.
useless. Torkelson hasn't been good. So like, who do you really have? Like Ibanez,
Right.
he's one of the guys I was talking about where he was kind of surprising towards the beginning of the year. He
Yeah.
kind of helped you out. Justin Henry Malloy, he hasn't really done much. We knew his batting average was going to be pretty low because kind of like what he typically does. He's at a 154 right now, but he's hoping his walk rate would help his on base percentage, but still only a 277. I know he's got 2 home runs right now, but again, he's not producing really well.
Right.
So what are we looking at? I mean, this is one of the worst teams in baseball, and the only reason you won as many games as you have is because of the pitching. But
Yeah.
at the beginning of the year, you had both starters and you had the bullpen. The bullpen especially was helping you win some games. Then your starters kind of carried you, and your bullpen was kind of imploding. And then you started moving pitchers around, bringing some guys up, putting some guys down. You had some injuries. Maeda still has not looked good at all. But you have, and the reason why Scooble could potentially be someone I would trade is 1, because of his age, and 2, because of who you have coming up in the in your minor league rosters. I mean, you still got Kiter Montero. Right. You got Matt Manning, who's still down there.
Yeah.
Not that any of those guys are as good as Scooble.
No, but Matt Manning, when he's come up, when we've called him up and he's pitched for us, he's had some good outings.
He's had some good outings,
Well, because I think that was one of the shockers. Like, I thought he would make the roster out of spring training.
Yeah.
And that was kind of actually a big storyline at the end of spring training when he got sent to AAA.
At this point, I wish he would have made the roster. We never signed Maeda. Maeda has been really bad for us. But there's nobody. I don't know what to say about this lineup. McKinstry's not a major leaguer. He shouldn't be on the roster. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to sound like like I'm just one of those people that's constantly negative about the Tigers. Like, I'm not trying to be some, I don't know, like shock jock or whatever you want to call it, right? Where it's just constantly talking bad about it. But when I'm looking at this, I just don't see anything. I don't see anything that's positive.
Yeah. No, right.
So,
well, you were saying that, and the first person I came to was a little bit of Bob Uecker from Major League.
Right. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy, right? I don't want to be.
No, I know. Nobody wants to be, right? But, you go through some... We kept saying that about the Lions for a really long time. And then there was like some glimmers of hope over the last few years. And then obviously last year was a little bit of a breakout year, right? But
look, I mean, what I will say is this, though, all right? It's not all bad for the minor leagues. Dylan Dingler is looking pretty decent as far as, like, he's actually having some pretty good bat-to-ball skills going on right now this current year, right? Haiyu Lee is having a breakout year. He's looking really good.
Yeah. Jace Young?
Jace Young, I expected him to get a call up already. Jace Young is looking like the real deal. I'm really liking what so far out of Jace Young. I expect him to get called up anytime. If not, like, I kind of expected this weekend, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know. Maybe at the end of the and the reason why I thought Jace Young was getting called up was because he was scheduled to start in AAA, and he was scheduled to start. Then all of a sudden, he didn't. And a lot of times that happens when they get ready to get called up to the Major League Baseball, right? When you have that last minute change like that.
Yep.
But that's not what happened. So I don't know. It's going to happen soon. And I'm really anxious to see what it looks like when he gets called up, because he's having a really good season down there.
And then
Jackson Jobe, right?
Thank you.
Like we got to talk about Jackson
That was
Jobe.
the next guy I was going to talk about was Jackson Jobe. But I was trying to think of his name, and I'm like, it's Double J.
Yeah. So look, again, it's not all barren down there. And Jackson Jobe again is another reason why I would consider getting rid of Skubal if the price is right, if I get what I want. Because you got Jackson Jobe coming up. Like, I'm not saying that, again, just give up and just take peanuts, just blow it up just for the sake of blowing it up. Like, I'm going to want a ton in return for this stuff,
Correct. Well, you're still trying to put a competitive team together. It's just not coming together. And the Tigers need pieces to the puzzle. So you ever get a puzzle at a yard sale? You get it all together and there's like 6 pieces missing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Tigers roster.
Yeah.
Right. It's like they're the yard sale puzzle with 6 pieces missing.
But yeah, Jackson Jobe's looked really good. He's got 25 strikeouts in 18 innings. I'm really liking him. And of course, we still got Max Clark. We can't forget about Max Clark, right? I mean,
absolutely.
He's starting to come on a little bit better this year. Like later on, like he got off to a really slow start, but he's got his average up to 277, his on base percentage of 372.
Is he high A or double A?
A.
He's just A. Okay.
Yeah, Lakeland Flying Tigers right now. Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course we already talked about Jace Young. Jace Young currently is batting 270 with a 390 on base percentage. He's got 64 strikeouts and 47 walks, right? Like, he's seeing the ball pretty well. He's got 11 home runs right now, 1 triple, and 18 doubles already. The guy's kind of been a double machine. McGonigal, that's the guy I was trying to think of. He's having a really good year. Again, he's an A-ball. He's with Max Clark. He's hitting 329 right now with a 398 on base, 476 slug. McGonigal's looking really good.
He drafted last year, right?
We got Clark and
McGonigal.
Yep, and McGonigal we got because we drafted Clark instead of Wyatt Langford. Clark took less money, so we can use that money to sign McGonigal.
Yep.
So again, like, we're looking like we got some. I mentioned Hyu Lee just to cover his stats real quick. He's currently batting 301 with a 376 on base and a 524 slugging, and 900 ops, 11 home runs, 4 triples, and 14 doubles. He's got 29 walks to 48 Ks and 11 stolen bases. Hyu Lee is, we got him in that trade last year. He came from the Phillies.
Yep.
So I'm telling you, like, the minor league system's looking pretty decent, right? But a lot of these players that we're talking about is, A and double A, right?
Correct. So they're still a couple of years away.
Yeah, I mean, at the earliest, we'll see like Hyu Lee, next year at the end of 25, right?
Yeah.
At the absolute earliest, McGonigal and Max Clark, you're looking at 26 or 27. Mm-hmm. So, Jackson Jobe, probably next year at 25. So, will that be enough to compete for a playoff spot? To keep Skubal. That's the only thing I'm saying. If you think yes, then you keep them. You don't even consider any trades. If you say no, then there's no reason to keep them. You trade them, get what you can.
Absolutely. Okay. So, like I said, I thought that would be a pretty good transition into the draft, because we're talking about new players, right? And what we currently have and what we think we need, and then who's going to be available at 11, right? And last year was the first time I ever watched the draft, and I sat here and we watched it, and we were going through it, and you were, describing it and talking to me about it, And it's not like the NFL draft where, the best player available gets picked no matter what, position wise, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter. The rookie contract deal on the NFL, it just slots players based on that selection and that position, right? It doesn't matter what it's going to be. There's no high low, blah 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 blah, right?
Right.
And then with the MLB, it's not quite that way, and they can, just like last year, Max Clark took less, so we were able to get McGonigal, and get two quality players, right? So let's talk about the draft and what you think. We obviously know that even through our minor league system, shortstop is still a huge need. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, and you always look for pitching. Detroit does a great job, I think, of developing pitchers and bringing them up and bringing them along. I know you've said that, and so at 11, because the other thing is that you talked about the percentage of the player making the bigs with the further down the draft it goes, right?
Yep.
And it's almost exponentially drops the further down. Once you get out of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Like coming down, you can start seeing that incremental drop in the percentage of the chances of them making the major league roster. So at 11, obviously looking at shortstop, let's talk about players you'd like to see the Tigers target with the 11th pick.
So, look, quick overview real quick, all right?
Yeah.
Right now, the Tigers have 5 picks that I consider, like at quote-unquote top 100. They got 11, 45, 66 is the competitive balance pick they got, 79, and then 106. So, of course, 106 right outside the 100.
That's why I say quote-unquote, right? You can still end up with a top 100 player because someone will take somebody that's outside the top 100.
That's correct. So we got those 5 picks, the top 100. So let's call it what it is. But of course, 11 is going to be the one everybody's looking at.
Correct.
Right now, based on how things could fall, I'd be looking at one of the high school prospects. My number one guy that I think has a chance of falling to 11, that the Tigers could potentially get, would be Connor Griffin. That's, again, and that's like if other players were to fall, like bizarrely, I wouldn't say like like Weatherholt. There'd be a chance I'd take Weatherholt over Griffin, depending on like what I'm looking to do. Am I trying to compete now or compete later? Right? Because Griffin being
Weatherholt,
high school,
you're getting an older player because he's coming out of college.
Right. So if I was trying to compete earlier, I'd take Weatherholt.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, because Weatherholt is probably one of the best players in the draft. It's really hard to argue. I mean you can. I mean Pizzana and others, right? But Weatherholt has some, again, just some lingering injuries that are of concern.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying if he falls because of those injuries, I wouldn't take him. I'm just saying right now, I don't think he's going to get out of the top 10. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I do think that Connor Griffin has a chance.
Yep, sorry. Both those players shortstop, right? Shortstop outfield.
Well, Weatherholt's going to be shortstop second. I think Weatherholt's probably going to be more of a second baseman than a shortstop. Okay. I'm not saying that he can't hang at shortstop. Maybe they might, whatever. But I think he's a better second baseman than shortstop. And Connor Griffin, there's a lot of people that think that with his size and his ability to cover the field, that he'll be a better center fielder than what he would be as a shortstop. Okay. But he can still be a good shortstop, right? But they just think he can be a Gold Glover at center. But if you're looking at Max Clark, who could also be a Gold Glover at center, right?
Yep.
Like, what do you do with Connor Griffin? Like, I just think that Griffin
that was going to be my
more
next
valuable
question. Was
short.
like, yeah, you're talking about center field. I'm like, well, that's the guy we just drafted last year, and that's where he plays.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
but based on what you're saying and what I've been learning from you when you talk about the draft for baseball, picking another guy that's in that position is not a bad thing.
no,
because
it's
you
not.
don't know, because chances are one of them will be a flop.
Well, or you might just use one as trade bait too, potentially for something. Like
There
you
you
just,
go. Yep.
you don't know what's going to happen, and
Kind of like the Dodgers having like 4 of the top,
yeah, all the
prospects
catchers.
catching pressure. Yeah, all the catchers.
You basically just pick best player available, like who you think is going to be better, best, and you don't try to pick for position because again, that's really tough to figure out how they're going to transition. Even some of the better players, we keep saying it over and over again. Wyatt Langford, everybody, including myself, thought he was going to transition pretty quickly into the Major League Baseball, and he has not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you pick who you think is going to be best, and in some situations, you'll take a high school prospect that you think might have more upside than an established prospect, out of college. Again, just depending on where you're at in your
Right.
on your team for Major League. But yeah, I don't know. Like this is a completely different type of draft than NFL. NFL
Right.
you expect guys to come in, contribute right away, and change your team. Like the very next year. But that's not the way it is in baseball.
Specifically, first-round players.
Exactly. Usually, first through third, you kind of expect it. You expect a third rounder to at least be a starter too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, baseball is completely different. And
Well,
I find
you're talking about that
interesting too.
I had to look up Dylan Cruz, right?
Yeah.
Because he was the talk of the town, right? As far as how well he was hitting, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at his stats. It's just a summary, right? Looks like he's at AAA. So he's in 205 at bats this year, 55 hits, 7 homers, 42 RBI, 17 stolen bases. Sorry, I almost said strikeouts, but that's not right. He got 268 average, 332 on base, and 786 ops.
Yeah.
Right. So I would assume because of that 786 is on base percentage. That's including walks, right?
On base including walks. Yeah. So it's including anytime you get on base, including like intentional walks, hit by pitch, etc.
Okay. Yeah. Any of that stuff. Okay. All right. So, and it's not those aren't bad numbers.
No.
Right. I just think that everyone was expecting, he'd be hitting a little closer to 300.
Well, when you bat 426 in college, and the SEC, and the on base percentage was 567.
Yeah.
And slugging of a 713, and your ops of a 1280. Yeah, you kind of expect again, a little bit quicker of a transition. But this is what's so crazy about the whole thing, right? Baseball's just different. It's a whole different animal.
Well, it's also, I think we talked a little bit about the differences in swinging a aluminum bat and a wooden bat.
To a wood bat, yeah, it is
right?
different.
And it's like the balance is different. Is mostly right as far as going from aluminum to wood.
It's less forgiving, right? So it's like we talked about a little bit on another show about like exit velocities, barrel rates, etc. Right? Yep. So with aluminum bat, you can get away with a lot more, because again of it being able to have higher exit velocities being a metal bat as opposed to a wood bat. And the higher exit velocity you hit at, the better chance you have of getting on base. So, like in situations in that scenario, like metal bats is more forgiving. It allows you to still achieve like a higher exit velocity and other things. And so yes,
you can hit a high blooper and it leave the field because of the exit velocity that you hit at because of the aluminum bat.
Because aluminum bat, right?
Yeah. So instead of getting a bunch of pop outs, a little fly out.
With the wood bat.
with the wood bat, you're hitting it over the fence.
And same thing with even a ground ball, right? Like if you add an extra mile per hour to a ground ball, that's a difference between someone being able to get to it and throw you out, and it just having enough speed just to get through the infield and into the outfield for a base hit. All that stuff matters.
Yep. So, okay, so we kind of ran the gamut today. I think pretty good on where the Tigers currently are, what their options are at the trade deadline, some of their prospects, their options, coming out of the first round for the draft as well. So I think the listeners, have a little bit to think about.
Well, let me ask you, right? Because I know you always, I talk a lot about the whole baseball scenario, but for you though, all right, being more of a casual baseball fan, you see the Tigers and a lot of times in a different way than I view the Tigers. So as you, what do you think what do you think they should do as far as the trade deadline?
To me, I don't think I think everybody can be for sale, right? Because I don't see the team being competitive anytime soon. I think they're 5 years from being a competitive team. And even your Riley Green, I guess Dylan Cruz probably should, not Dylan Cruz. Dang it. Colt Keith, probably not, because we just signed him. He's young, right? We don't really know what you're going to get out of that kid. But if I got an offer that said, this is what okay. But I've been trying to be more optimistic about what I've seen from the team.
You normally are.
I am. But I try to see it from the little victories, right? Hey, everybody got a hit today, right? At least there was some contact on the ball. We got on base, right? Like I'm trying to find those little pieces of victory, right? Even though we're losing the game, right? If our offense is, our starting pitchers should have better records, right?
Yeah, our offense is terrible. They're leaving hanging out there.
Right? If you can't support that, can you imagine having to go out there and you're the Tigers you're in the starting rotation for the Detroit Tigers, and you go out onto the mound, and you're like, freaking A, man. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to throw 6 innings. I'm going to strike out 6, right? No hits, walked 1, right? Great inning or great outing, right? And to turn around and you see, you lead the game, it's you're winning 1-0. Or it's 0-0, and we still can't produce, and you get the loss, right? It just, it's got to be frustrating, and I got to hand it to our starting pitching staff because they come out there and they continue to be professional and do their job, right? But it's got to be frustrating, and to me, it just, because the game is so mental.
Yep.
That to have it sitting there, it's like right on your shoulder. It's like having the little angel and the little devil thing right on your shoulder from the cartoon, right? Like, this guy, I can't believe this is what's going to happen. Yeah, blah, 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 right? And you're constantly fighting yourself while you're trying to perform. And I just haven't seen enough. I was very optimistic at the beginning of the year, right? I thought they would, get close to winning 90 games. I don't see that. I don't even know if they're going to make it to 80 games winning.
At this point, it doesn't look like it. I just want to point this out real quick, though, brother, because you mentioned Colt Keith. Keep him because he's young.
Yeah.
Colt Keith is 23. Riley Green's 24.
Okay.
Just an FYI.
Okay.
They're just a year apart.
The difference is that with Riley Green, teams really already have an idea of what they're going to get in him, right? So as far as trade bait, and what you think you can get for a Riley Green compared to what you get for a Colt Keith, to me, you get more for a Riley Green.
But that's why I'm saying I want to keep them both. Like,
you got to have a young core.
That's why I put both on my list of untouchables, right?
Okay.
Like, I wouldn't give up any one of them.
Yeah, and I get it. But
yeah.
at this point, it's a disappointing season. So every time, every day I'm on and I'm looking, I'm like, okay, well, how'd they do? And I'm trying to find the little victories. And they make it really hard. I mean, you mentioned it, right? 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 0, right? Like, it's binary code.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not, it can't be that sustainable, right? The Tigers have a proud history of good teams, right? To me, the biggest things about Tigers in the past was it seemed like always the bullpen let us down.
Yeah,
right?
It was that way, yeah.
Right? So when we had, these better teams, we couldn't finish games. Well, now we're at a point where we're locked into a contract that nobody wants to get rid of because it's going to cost us forever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got some good talent in your minor league system, but they're still 3 or 4 years down the road, right?
There are ways.
You might see that, right? Before you see some production at the major league level.
I'd say 2 to 3, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going 3 to 4, and at that point you're going to see them there, but you're going to give them a year in the majors, or some time, give them more at bats, and you're actually going to see, are they going to be competitive?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I still think it's, like I said, it's 5 years. They're a minimum 5 years from winning a pennant.
A minimum, I'd say, yeah.
That's minimum. Yeah. 5 years from winning a pennant.
Yep. But yeah, so like looking ahead, with the draft we're kind of talking about, like we're gonna definitely do a lot more draft coverage now with the MLB combine being over.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are bringing out their mock drafts, updating them, saying how they're going to look, how they're going to be. There really isn't like a clear consensus top pick right now. When I was looking at different types of drafts, there was, they're all over the place. I mean, they're mainly with like 1 or 2 players, usually Bazana, but nonetheless, like I think as we get closer, we're going to start seeing more people, picking one player over the other because that's what they're hearing from that team. And we'll see. It's going to be exciting. If possible, depending on what we got going on, the draft day, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't even mind doing a live stream on it just to kind of see what happens. But so look out for that. We'll try to put that together if possible.
Yep, sure will. So, yeah, we're at the 48-minute. We're just under the 50-minute mark. I have one closing remark, and it's about the NHL. It has nothing to do with the MLB.
All right.
I have to give some applause to the Oilers. You're down 3-0.
Yeah.
On the brink. And they won again tonight. It is now, the series is tied at 3-3, and they're going to Game 7. And I think if they pull this off, they're only going to be the second team to come back and win the championship after being down 0-3. So, congratulations to them. Just to get where they've gotten, just to even it up. So, wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out.
Yeah, I'm and just so you know too, Ohtani had another home run today.
Okay.
So he's 2 for 2 with 2 walks as well with a home run.
Yeah, so, before we went live, I was looking at his stats and I seen on his first at bat, he walked. So, and now since then, he's 2 for 2 with a homer.
Yeah, it's anyway, just interesting.
Do you think he can? Is he MVP? Can he be an MVP from the DH?
Yeah, you can. It's very difficult to do because you're not providing anything defensively or anywhere else.
Yep.
But it is possible. You know, and when he was on his tear earlier on in the season, there was talk that he, you know, definitely has a chance to be like. So one of the stats a lot of people look at, including people that have, you know, the ability to cast MVP votes, is WAR. You know, wins above replacements.
Yep.
We talked about that a little bit before. I know not a lot of people, or not. There's not everybody out there that listens to us understands what WAR is. But the basic principle of WAR is they try to take everything in the game: hitting, pitching, fielding, throwing, running, stealing, whatever they can possibly do. Right? They try to take everything that's possible, and then figure out what value you hold just in wins. So it's not just one stat looking at. It tries to encompass your entire game and say, okay, how much better are you than an average player that's playing? And that's what WAR is, okay? It's not a perfect stat, but I think it is something that you can look at and say, when you compare it with other stats, it helps shape a picture, is all I'm saying. It's not the all-encompassing stat, but it helps shape a picture. Anyways, Ohtani has the ability to have like an 8 WAR season as a DH, and that's insane because as a DH, you and not playing the field or not doing anything else like pitching or whatever,
right?
You actually have a negative WAR assigned to you from not playing the field.
Right.
So his WAR right now is 4.1, and we're not quite through, the halfway point. So he has a chance to be over 8, and maybe even an outside shot at 9. So that's kind of insane as a DH.
Well, absolutely. So, but yeah, that's I think that's kind of our show for the day. Again, appreciate everybody out there. Share, like, push that little button, subscribe. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. I mean, I don't know. And then we appreciate feedback too. Let us know what you think about the Tigers. And
we love comments because we talk about the comments.
Yeah.
Like offline, we'll go, hey, this guy comment. Oh, let's go take a look, see what it. So we appreciate that, and then we try to, and we will respond. We like having that channel. I guess
we like having the interaction, definitely. Yeah. But let us know, your opinion as far as the Tigers go. What do you think their chances are of getting 80 wins or more? And what would you do? Let's just say, they have no shot at the playoffs. What would you do as far as their players? Who are your untouchables?
Right. So
that's what I'm curious.
Yeah.
But anyways, we appreciate you. We'll just talk to you next time.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.
We're out.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.